Did Albert Pike predict 3 world wars over 150 years ago in a letter that he wrote to Mazzini? Was the letter even written? Well, there's a lot of debate, and I've got some of the answers. So how the heck are you? I hope you're having a beautiful day today. Remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. This is a live action role play, so don't take things too seriously here. We always recommend be excellent to each other, be the change you want to see, help others if they need help. And remember, we're all in this together, even the MFers, you know, the money funders. They love you so much. So this is really interesting because I first came across this letter about 10 years ago, probably. I did a podcast about 8 years ago, back in the day here on YouTube via Leak Project about this letter. And the letter is titled The Illuminati Plan for 3 World Wars, August 15th, 1871, Albert Pike letter to Mazzini. I'm going to read the letter to you. We're going to look at all the details. We're going to go very deep into this letter, into this infamous Illuminati letter. And yeah, so what's going on? Weather's been interesting today, but we're not here to talk about the weather, although it is beautiful out here in Southern Colorado. I actually did want to thank our friends over at Giant Mining Corp. Giant Mining Corp, thank you for sponsoring today's video. I recently found out about copper and copper shortages and some great opportunities with copper, actually, and how copper shortages just went political. So check this out. Washington's eyeing import tariffs, and the scramble for homegrown supply is on. Prices are brushing $4.85 a pound. Wow. While global stockpiles sit at 15-year lows. Enter Giant Mining Corp, advancing the 9,800-acre Majuba Hill project in mining-ready Nevada. Recent drilling cut a 170-foot, averaging 0.4 copper, crowned by a 10-foot streak at 4.4% grades. That's what majors pay billions for. Independent engineers at Respect are already modeling the first resource estimate, so Majuba moves while rivals wrestle for new red tape. Speed wins the super cycle, and they are built for speed. Dig deeper at giantminingcorp.com. On the OTC, it's BFGFF in the US and BFG in Canada. Just click that link, watch the video. You'll thank me later. Some great opportunities. Obviously, there's never any guarantees, so read the disclaimer as well. But let's talk about this. All right. Let's get right into it. Hey, Raven Wolf, good to see you. It's been a while. How are you doing? Hope things are going awesome for you and the family. And Steven, good to see you. Mainframe, Justin, Level 9, The Goyim No, Static Bat. Man, some of these names are great. Utah Spice and everything nice. Great to see you. Thank you very much for being here. All right. Road Rage. Hope you're having a better day than Road Rage. Is my Dixie wrecked? What does that mean? Oh, man. I didn't even want to ask. No, I think it's okay. Last I checked, it was in fascinating shape. It was in great shape. Wonderful. Excellent shape. Excellent, Smithers. Okay, so I'm going to show you the letter, the alleged letter. Like, I'm fascinated with Freemasonry. I'm not a Freemason, but I think it's just fascinating. Some of the symbols and symbology and numerology and some of the information that's passed on through the generations with Freemasonry. It's very mysterious. And obviously there's a lot of these symbols that can be seen way before Freemasonry. A lot of these symbols go back pre-Egypt, possibly even Atlantis. So when I read about certain events that take place or alleged events that take place, I like to dive deeper into that. And one of the, I've always been fascinated with the book Morals and Dogma. I don't know if you've read it. It's like 800 pages. Albert Pike wrote it. I'm fascinated with Albert Pike. I've heard a lot of controversy. Some people have talked about how he was prejudiced, but then I did some research and found out that the natives loved him because he was helping the natives out substantially. So I don't know. But what I do know is if you read his book, Morals and Dogma, it's very dense. Like, and you got to be pretty smart to pick up on what he's dropping there. I think he spoke over a dozen languages. And then some people say he actually communicated with Lucifer, but they don't really know what Lucifer is. So when you look up what Lucifer actually means, it's far different than what most people are told. But this is the letter. Hey, Blue Moon Bee and Free Bird. I like that. Free Bird. I just want to start singing, but I'm going to hold off. So let's read the alleged letter here that was written to Mazzini. Now, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about Albert Pike. And Albert Pike, an American author, poet, orator, editor, lawyer. He was actually one of the only Confederate State Army generals to have a statue in, I think, D.C. or somewhere, but it was taken down during the Black Lives Matters protests and some of the riots that they were having. The statue was taken down violently. But anyway, Confederate States Army general who served as an associate justice of the Arkansas Supreme Court in exile from 1864 to 1865. He previously served as a senior officer of the Confederate States Army, commanding the District of Indian Territory and the Trans-Mississippi Theater. A prominent member of the Freemasons, Pike served as the Sovereign Grand Commander of the Supreme Council, Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction from 1859 to 1891. So he also has the symbol you can see right here for the 33rd degree. Not only is he a 32nd degree, but a 33rd degree Mason in the Scottish Rite. I think to get a 33rd degree, that's actually a part of the Scottish Rite, not the York Rite. Very, very smart person, very intelligent. Some people think that he worshiped the devil because he talks about Lucifer, but the devil and Lucifer are two completely different beings. And the definitions are completely different also. Lucifer means light bearer. Devil typically means like the dark lord or the evil one, or very, very different than the light bearer. But anyway, this is Morals and Dogma that he wrote. Very popular in Freemasonry. I'll bet you, though, that a lot of Freemasons haven't even read it. It's a very big book. But he wrote this letter, supposedly, we're still in the alleged realms here, to Mazzini. Now, Mazzini is an Italian politician, journalist, and activist for the unification of Italy. Now, this is back in the 1800s. His efforts helped bring about the independent and unified Italy in place of the several separate states, many dominated by foreign powers, that existed until the 19th century. An Italian nationalist in the historic radical tradition and a proponent of a republicanism of social democratic inspiration, Mazzini helped define the modern European movement for popular democracy in a republican state. So that's the two. Now, the letter, here's the letter, supposedly. The Illuminati plan for 3 world wars, August 15th, 1871. The following is a letter that speculation claimed that Albert Pike wrote to Mazzini in 1871 regarding a conspiracy involving 3 world wars that were planned in an attempt to take over the world. The Pike letter to Mazzini was on display in the British Museum Library, they say, in London until 1977. Oh, that's the coolest year, 1977. The best. This letter has been claimed by many internet sites to reside in the British Library in London, which denies the letter exists. We'll look at that in a minute. Mazzini was an Italian revolutionary leader of the mid-1800s, as well as the director of the Illuminati. Ooh, now it's getting exciting. Albert Pike, a very historical Masonic figure, was a 33rd degree Freemason, occultist, Grand Master, and creator of the Southern Jurisdiction of the Masonic Scottish Rite Order. Oh yeah, let me tell you something. This is really interesting. So back like 2000 and 2011 time frame, when I worked in San Antonio, I used to ride my bike about 40 miles a day. I'd ride my bike 20 miles. Well, no, I'm sorry. It's 15 miles each way. So 15 miles to work, 15 miles back, Monday through Friday. I work downtown San Antonio. You know, I'm riding my bike, whether it's 110 degrees out or it doesn't matter. I'm riding my bike to work. I get to work. I run upstairs. I change real quick. And then I go back downstairs and then I go to work. Anyway, so one day I'm at work and I'm like, you know what? I've got a long lunch break. This is pretty cool. I can go take a long lunch break. And, you know, the info warrior, Alex Jones, I used to listen to him. And I was listening to him during my lunch break, and he was talking about Albert Pike and this alleged letter about 3 world wars. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. And so I went on a walk. I go on a walk. I walk 15 minutes from my work. I'm just way out there. And all of a sudden, boom, Albert Pike, the Albert Pike Masonic Lodge. I'm right there looking right at it. San Antonio, Albert Pike. Whoa, what the heck? Weird coincidence? I don't know. Call it whatever you want, but I thought it was pretty cool synchronicity. So I'm listening to Alex Jones talk about Albert Pike. I go take a walk for my lunch break, and I walk to the Albert Pike Memorial Building. I'm like, oh, this is pretty interesting. So I'm pretty fascinated, and I start to do some research, and then I start to dig a little bit deeper into this alleged letter. And I've got Morals and Dogma, by the way. I've got Morals and Dogma, and this letter with the 3 world wars is not in Morals and Dogma that I see. If you could tell me what page it is, I'll get the book and I'll pull it out and we'll look together, because I didn't see it in that book. I've got a copy. I think it's the second edition copy that Shally Brady got me, by the way. Thank you, Shally. Shally Brady, I used to commission her for a bunch of artwork. She's done a bunch of amazing artwork for me over the years, and helped create the Tarot of Ra and Reset Zero. But anyway, let's go back to the letter. Let's go back to this letter here. So I just wanted to tell you that really cool synchronistic story that happened to me and that experience that I had in San Antonio after I heard about Albert Pike. Like, wow, what are the odds? So thought it was pretty cool. But anyway, let's go back to the letter. Following are apparently extracts from the letter showing how 3 world wars have been planned for many generations. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. Nanu, nanu. The divergences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. So that's the first chapter, the First World War, in this alleged infamous letter. Now let's get to the Second World War. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. The war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need for the final social cataclysm. Now, if that's not interesting, listen to this. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur or the agentur of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroys each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on the issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which, in all its horror, will show clearly to the nations the effects of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere, the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. The manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. So that's the letter, alleged letter. Now, here's what's interesting. When there were people that reached out to the museum that this letter was supposed to be at, And the museum says they have no idea what they're talking about. They said that they never had the letter. The letter doesn't exist. If it does, they don't know about it. And here, I'll show you that right now. I've got that right here. So this was a Freedom of Information request to the British Library about this letter. Daryl Barry made this Freedom of Information request. You can see right here. Dear the British Library. This is from April 2023. And there's actually been several people that have requested information on this, but this is more recent. Could you please confirm the British Museum holds in its possession archives a letter from General Albert Pike to Italian politician Giuseppe Mazzini? And if I said his first name wrong, I apologize. I've been holding off to say his first name because I probably got it wrong. But I got the last name good, right? Mazzini. I love that. Mazzini. Dated 15th. I better not say it 3 times in a row because it'll be like Beetlejuice. And I want to be careful. But anyway, back to the letter. So, dear British Library, could you please confirm if the British Museum holds in its possession archives a letter from General Pike to Italian politician Mazzini, dated 15th August, 1871? And if so, has it ever been on display at the British Museum? Yours faithfully, Daryl Barry. And here is the response. Oh, man, look at that. That's so close to my number right there. 2342 is my number. How'd they get 2345, man? That's pretty cool. Anyway, that's a side note. Please find attached our response to your Freedom of Information request. Kind regards. Well, they don't have any information. They have no idea. So the response is they don't know and they never had it. But that's their response. Like they could be wrong, right? Like maybe it was there and now they just don't want to tell anybody because it made so much publicity, right? That's probably what some of you are thinking. Like, well, they wouldn't tell us anyway, especially now. And it was taken and now it's hidden and they don't want people to know, especially the public. So we're not going to tell them. Maybe, but the plot thickens. It does get deeper here. So let's take a look at this. There is a book called Pawns in the Game. It's a fiction book. Fiction. Pawns in the Game. Book by William Guy Carr, published in 1958. It talks about a global conspiracy. The book presents a theory of a global conspiracy orchestrated by powerful, often described as atheistic, materialistic forces seeking to gain ultimate control over world resources and power. The book talks about a hidden hand that operates behind the scenes, manipulating world events through various secret societies like the Illuminati and the Freemasons. The book argues that financial systems are deliberately designed and exploited to manipulate countries and populations. International banking families are accused of orchestrating economic crises to consolidate their power in this book of fiction. Truth and humor, anyone? Carr argues that major wars are not random events, but are strategically planned and utilized to achieve objectives of the hidden elite, such as gaining economic advantage and reconfiguring the global balance of power. The book suggests that these secret societies infiltrate government structures and institutions to control policies and decisions. The author Carr argues that ideologies are manipulated to divide populations and prevent unified resistance against the hidden power structure. William Guy Carr was a Canadian naval officer who served during both world wars. He became a prolific author on conspiracy theories, blending his naval experience with his interest in geopolitics and secret societies. Pawns in the Game emerged during the Cold War, a period marked by heightened geopolitical tensions and anxiety surrounding communism and global power structures. And in summary, Pawns in the Game by William Guy Carr is a controversial book that presents a comprehensive conspiracy theory about hidden forces manipulating global events. It touches upon topics such as secret societies, financial control, wars, the infiltration of governments, offering a unique perspective on historical and political events. So, just tells you a little bit about the book itself. Now let's go to A Minute to Midnight. A Minute to Midnight. Albert Pike's 3 World Wars. Fact or fiction? Well, this is a direct quote from the book that I just told you about. William Guy Carr's book entitled Pawns in the Game, published in 1958. Not 1871, but 1958. So we're going to 1958 now. This is a direct quote from the book. Pike's plan was as simple as it has proved effective. He required that communism, Nazism, political Zionism, and other international movements be organized and used to foment the 3 global wars and 3 major revolutions. The First World War was to be fought so as to enable the Illuminati to overthrow the powers of the czars in Russia and turn that country into the stronghold of atheistic communism. The differences stirred up by agentur of the Illuminati between the British and German empires were to be used to foment this war. After the war ended, communism was to be built up and used to destroy other governments and weaken religions. World War II was to be fomented by using the differences between fascists and political Zionists. This war was to be fought so that Nazism would be destroyed and the power of political Zionism increased so that the sovereign Bye, ladies and gentlemen. Are we back? Where did I lose the audience there? It looks like we got disconnected for a minute. So we were talking. Did you hear the part about World War II? Did that work? Bueller? Where was I before we got rudely disconnected? Well, if you're not going to tell me, I'm just going to continue. Okay, I will just continue. So we talked about the first 2, and then it goes on to say, at this point, it was to be contained and kept in check until required for the final social cataclysm. Can any informed person deny Roosevelt and Churchill did not put this policy into effect? Then it goes on to World War III. Okay. World War III is to be fomented by using the differences the agentur of the Illuminati stir up between political Zionists and the leaders of the Muslim world. The war is to be directed in such a manner that Islam, the Arab world, including Mohammedanism, and political Zionism, including the state of Israel, will destroy themselves, while at the same time the remaining nations, once more divided against each other on this issue, will be forced to fight themselves into a state of complete exhaustion, physically, mentally, spiritually, and economically. Can any unbiased and reasoning person deny that the intrigue now going on in the near Middle and Far East isn't designed to accomplish this devilish purpose? On August 15th, 1871, Pike told Mazzini that after World War III is ended, those who aspire to undisputed world domination will provoke the greatest social cataclysm the world has ever known. We quote his own written words taken from the letter catalogued in the British Museum Library, London, England. We shall unleash the nihilists and atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude disillusioned with Christianity, whose theistic spirits will be from that moment without compass direction, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view, a manifestation which will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. William Guy Carr, Pawns in the Game, pages 10 and 11. So it was written in a book in 1958, a book of fiction, 1958. Now, there are times that it seems like reality mimics fiction and fiction mimics reality. I get it. But that's the furthest back we can find evidence of these 3 alleged wars being written in a letter is from this book right here, Pawns in the Game, 1958. Then it goes on to say, however, contrary to what Carr wrote in Pawns in the Game, we later find out that the letter was never cataloged in the British Museum Library. That point is cleared up in a second book, which was published posthumously after Carr's death. The keeper of manuscripts recently informed the author that this letter is not cataloged in the British Museum Library. It seems strange that a man of Cardinal Rodriguez's knowledge should have said it was in 1925. William Guy Carr, Satan, Prince of the World, page 22. So there you go. There's the book. There's Carr. And there's another book, Satan, Prince of this World. Now, I find it very interesting. I still find it very interesting. It's fascinating, but it looks like there's no solid data to show us that this was actually in the museum. So unless they covered it up for some reason and they hid the records, but usually, I mean, maybe you could do some more research in this also, and we can correlate research, but I can't find anything to verify that it's legit. Now, I will say this, because I've got a copy of Morals and Dogma, and I've read parts, like when I first started reading it several years ago, there was a part where Albert Pike was talking about basically how religion, in his point of view, religions need to be basically eliminated. And I was like, wow, I was really shocked when I read that. I was like, whoa, that's pretty intense. I mean, people should have the right to believe in what they want and the right of freedom of religion. And I absolutely still believe that. But I understand more now what he was talking about, what I think he was talking about. Because if we look at the majority of wars and conflict through history, how many wars in history have been about religion, differing religions and differing beliefs? Very powerful, very powerful. I think that if you can find higher purpose and higher self and help others in religion, that's awesome. I think that's great. And that's why I think you should have the right to freedom of religion, freedom of worship. I think that that's fantastic. I think that we can learn from all religions in many ways. I mean, especially if you have a group of people together, all sharing ideas, we would probably find out that we're a lot closer to the same than what we have been conditioned to think otherwise. Oftentimes, what we hear about other countries, is that really what it's like in those other countries? What do they hear about us in other countries? Is that really what it's like? Maybe sometimes, but there's a lot of propaganda. And so if these giant religions ceased to exist, that doesn't mean spirituality ceases to exist, but if these giant religions ceased to exist, would we still have as much conflict? If people can go to war believing that their God is greater than the God of the person that they're going to attack in their beliefs, is that good or bad? What's your thought? I'm just presenting the idea here in this live action role play for entertainment purposes only. Don't take things too seriously. Very interesting to think about. Now, also, I wanted to show you this. So, because we were talking about Lucifer a minute ago, and I think that one of the interpretations of Lucifer is this. It's interesting because Lucifer literally means light bearer. But when you bring up Lucifer to most people, they think of this dark lord. They think of the dark lord, or this dark entity, or this evil being that is like the opposite of divine providence, or the opposite of God. And I also find that very interesting because Lucifer in mythology is talked about as the most beautiful angel until Lucifer fell, right? Until Lucifer fell from heaven. What if we look at that astrotheologically? What if we look at that in a completely different mindset of not an actual being, but what they're referencing in the scriptures? So Lucifer was added in Isaiah when it was translated in Latin. If you go to the oldest version of Isaiah 14:12, it does not reference Lucifer. And Lucifer is not a name of a being per se. Well, maybe, but not the type of being you think. So let's look at this real quick. So Isaiah 14:12. Let's go to the King James Version. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? Weaken the nations. Son of the morning, O Lucifer, O light bearer, son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground? You fell from heaven to the ground. So that makes me think, if you're looking in astrotheological terms, how about a reference of maybe a comet or an asteroid, or Lucifer being Venus, exactly Venus, the eastern star, the star of the morning, the bright star of the morning? Something happened to Venus. Something major happened to Venus. So we are viewing that happening in the skies. Do you know how, like, Inanna, Ishtar, Isis, some people believe they're the same like goddess, or the triad of the goddess, the divine feminine. Ishtar is often referred to as Queen of Heaven, Isis, Queen of Heaven, but also Isis, I think, is more connected to Sirius, the feminine aspect of Sirius, one of the brightest stars in the sky. And then Ishtar would be the east star, the eastern star, Venus. Inanna, I've actually questioned, is Inanna actually like a goddess, like a very divine, feminine, anthropomorphic, human-like person that walked the earth at one time? Because you can read about Inanna's descent to the netherworld, and you can read about Inanna and Dumazid and Inanna in the ancient Sumerian tablets, and then later on in the Akkadian and further tablets and mythologies later, Inanna is referenced as Ishtar or Isis or Esther in German. But I think that the scholars have tried to put them all together, and I think that they're three separate entities. I think that they're three separate beings. Isis could very well be the feminine, divine aspect of Sirius, which could be the mother star of our star. And then there's also the feminine and the masculine aspect of Sirius. So when we think about Ishtar, east star, eastern star, oh, Lucifer, the most beautiful angel that fell to earth from heaven, those are stories describing Lucifer going in orbit like a comet, or Venus going in orbit like a comet. And there could have been so much electrical discharge and energy from Venus going, flying through the skies like a comet, that it started to create this electrical arcing, which could very well have created that massive Valley Marineris on Mars. The Valley Marineris on Mars could actually be from electrical arcing created by Venus, which in Greek mythology, when they refer to Medusa is this beautiful goddess. But if you look at Medusa, you'll turn into stone. And Medusa has like these snakes, her hair is these snakes. Well, imagine snakes as like these giant filaments, these giant electrical discharges shooting from Venus to other planets. And so our ancestors saw that, and they started to worship Venus. They started to worship Venus and offer sacrifices and libations in hopes that they wouldn't turn into dust by looking at the eastern star. Don't look at Medusa. Don't look at her, because she will send an electrical arc into your brain that will turn you into stone. Hello. What's up, Amanda? Good to see you. How you been? It's been a while. So I find that one of the most plausible theories about Venus and Medusa and the ancient mythology, Ishtar, eastern star, Lucifer. Venus is a planet of beauty. Venus, what if there's two theories on Venus right now. The electric universe hypothesis, a lot of the EU guys think that Venus is more of a modern planet that was ejected from Jupiter or Saturn. And that's why Venus is so hot, because it's a new planet, some theories suggest. And then I think that Venus is far older, but something happened which caused Venus to get, I think that Venus and Mars were probably in a harmonious orbit together. And that's why there's all these stories of Dumazid, which most likely represents Mars. And, well, you've got Dumazid and Inanna, Dumazi and Inanna, but then later, through the ages and through the timelines and through the civilization cycles, those names change. And as we've talked previously, there's probably a very strong connection between ancient leaders and astrotheology, where they would have their names written by the scholars so that they would be glorified as god or goddess, so that their names would go on through the generations, because it would be connected to the stars and the planets and the constellations. So very, very interesting. Now, if we go to the oldest, this is the oldest version of Isaiah 14:12, as I was telling that we know about. It's Hebrew. Here's the Hebrew verse right here, and then it translates to, "How have you fallen from heaven, O shining one, son of the dawn? You have been cut down to the earth, you who laid the nations low." I think they're referring to a cataclysmic event linked to Venus. And then Dumazid and Inanna, or Dumazi and Ishtar, the love-hate relationship. They're like super lovers, but then they're also, they get into a lot of lover quarrels. Like when Inanna comes back from the netherworld and she sees Dumazid sitting on the throne, not even caring that she's been gone for 7 days, having way too much fun. So she's like, "You are going to the underworld where I just was. I'm using you as my replacement. Get in there." And then she felt guilty afterwards. But the original text right here, Hebrew, and then you can even, there's Dead Sea Scrolls referencing Isaiah 14, the Great Isaiah Scroll, Dead Sea Scrolls. So there's no Lucifer referenced in the original. So I think that kind of takes away a lot of the Lucifer theories and the Lucifer is the Dark Lord theory. Completely obliterates that. You know, another thing, like we were talking about propaganda. How much propaganda, how often, I'd like to ask you a question. How often do you think propaganda is used with religion, with politics, with products, with marketing? Propaganda is one of the oldest tools of sorcery there is. It's an old tool of sorcery, and it's a modern tool of sorcery. Talk about sorcery and witchcraft. That would be propaganda. King James wrote a book on demonology before the King James Bible came out. Did you know that? Let me see if I can find it here. King James Book of Demonology. Here it is right here. It's wild, especially if you read it. Read the book of demonology and how it talks about how people that were considered devil worshippers or women that were considered witches, the torture devices that were used on them to extract a confession. It's going to make you question who the devil is. At least it did me. But this is from 1597, written by King James. This is when he was King James of Scotland, before he became King James. Before he became King James of England, he was King James of Scotland. You can read this book and it will blow your mind. It will blow your mind because it will freak you out. You think things are scary now? Imagine being a free spirit in the 1500s in Europe, especially if you were a girl. Like if they caught you in the woods picking flowers and herbs and, you know, I don't know, blueberries, I don't know, but if they saw you in the woods, they could label you as a pagan or a witch. Now think about that propaganda. That's a pretty powerful propaganda right there. Yeah. Hello. Anyway, So that was something I wanted to share with you. I thought it was pretty interesting. And yeah, hope you're having an awesome day. Thanks for being here. Be happy to read through some of the comments here and see what we got going on. Yeah, I haven't seen the Witch Museum in Salem, but it's pretty intense. Huh. First edition, huh? I could find a first edition. Let's see what I can do. I'll look into that. Now, like I said, I do know in Morals and Dogma, Albert Pike does discuss getting rid of religion, but I do not know anywhere in the book where he talks about the specific wars. So you should send me an email. If you can find it, send it to me. I'll do a little bit of research on that also, but I haven't found anything on it. So I've been wrong before, though. It has happened once or twice. I'll let you know. Hope you have a great day, everybody. Thank you, and be the change you want to see.